Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Maaser Sheni. We are up to Perik Daled Mishna Yud Aleph. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilun Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Aranbayev, and Eliyahu ben Burchai Israelov, Menuchatam beGan Eden, Amen. The Mishnah today is going to teach us the halacha that applies when a single letter rather than a whole word is written on the container. If you remember yesterday's Mishnah, we spoke about a pouch of coins that has a note on it, which Maaser is written. Now we're going, or Korban is written. Now we're going to speak about just a single letter instead of the whole word. If someone found a container with the letter Kuf written on it, Korban, we assume that the Kuf stands for Korban, and the halacha is the same like we discussed in yesterday's Mishnah. Mem Maaser, if the letter Mem is written on the container, we assume that it stands for Maaser, and the contents are Maaser Sheni. And the Mefarshim explain Mem might also stand for Maaser Rishon or Maaser Ani. However, since neither of these have any sanctity, it's more reasonable to say that the Maaser label was meant to prevent people from eating the sacred Maaser Sheni outside of Yerushalayim. But in this case, as well in the remaining cases of the Mishnah, the label certainly refers to the contents instead of the container, since the container itself cannot be Maaser or any other things. It cannot be Tevel, Demai, Teruma. It's only in the case of a Korban that the label might refer to the container itself. Dalet Demai, the Mishnah says that the letter Dalet is written on the container, we assume that it stands for Demai, and the contents are Demai. Again, we said Demai is produce bought from Namaretz, and the rabbis decreed that one may not eat it until he separates Maaser Rishon and Maaser Ani from it. Tet, Tevel, if the letter Tet is written on the container, we assume that it stands for Tevel, and the contents are Tevel. Tevel is produce that was definitely not yet tithed. Taf, Tiruma. If the letter Tav is written on it, we assume that it stands for Tiruma, and the contents are Tiruma, which may be eaten only by a Kohen who is Tahor. Now, why do we assume that these letters are short for these words? The Mishnah says, Shebishat sakana yu chotvim Tav tachat Tiruma, because in times of danger, when the non-Jewish authorities in Eretz Yisrael decreed that the Jews shall not perform the mitzvot, they would write the letter Tav instead of Tiruma on the Tiruma containers to hide their mitzvah observance from their persecutors. Similarly, the Mefarshim explained they would write all the other one-letter abbreviations listed in the Mishnah. The Tana uses the example of Tiruma because that was the last one he mentioned. Tosfot says, even after the danger passed and the decrees were removed, the custom of using the abbreviations remained. Rabbi Yossi says, Kulam Shemot Ben Adamim, he disagrees. He says all of these letters are possibly abbreviations of people's names. For example, Kuf stands for Kehat, Mem for Moshe, Dalet for Daniel, Tav for Tuvia, Tet for Tuvia, Tav for Tanchum. Therefore, we may assume that the letters were meant to mark the name of the container's owners, and the contents have no sanctity at all. And the Mefarshim explain, Rabbi Yossi holds that since such a label does not prove that the contents are sacred, we are allowed to assume that they are all from the majority of all produce, which is not sacred. Now the Tanna Kama, however, holds it's unlikely that the letter stands for the owner's name, because a single letter is a weak way for identifying who he is, since it might stand for any name that starts with that letter. Therefore, we assume that it stands for Tiruma. Amar Rabbi Yossi says, Afilu matzah chavit v'imilea perot, even if someone found a barrel full of produce, v'katuv aleh tiruma, with the entire word tiruma written on it, harei luchulin, these contents are assumed to be ordinary non-sanctified produce, she'ani omer, because I may assume and say, eshtakad eta milea perot tiruma ufinah. Last year it was full of tiruma produce, which is why the owner labeled the barrel tiruma, but then he emptied it and refilled it with non-sanctified produce this year and neglected to erase the mark. And the Mefarshim explain, unless the label proves that the present contents are tiruma, we may follow the majority of all produce, which is not sacred. Rabbi Yossi holds that the tiruma label does not prove anything, and therefore he rules that the contents are not sacred, whereas the Chachamim, they disagree. They hold that if the person would have refilled the container marked Tiruma with ordinary produce, he would have certainly erased the Tiruma mark. Therefore, the fact that the mark is still there, it proves that the contents are Tiruma. And the Rav tells us, Ven Rabbi Yossi, the Halakha does not follow Rabbi Yossi. The final Mishnah of the Perek, Mishnah Yutet, discusses now other cases of coins that seem to be identified as Maaser Sheni. Ha'omer livno Maaser Sheni b'zavit zu. If someone says to his son, I left a bag of Maaser Sheni coins in one particular corner of the house, Umatzah b'zevit acheret, and the son went and found a bag of coins, but only in a different corner. Harei elu chulin, these coins that he found are non-sacred, because we may assume that they are not the Maaser coins to which the father referred. The Mefarshim explain, we do not assume that these are the coins which the father meant, but he forgot which corner he left it in, or that someone moved them to a different corner. Rather, the Rav says, since the coins were not found where the father said he left them, we may assume that these are different coins, and the Maaser Sheni coins that the father left in the house were taken by someone else. Therefore, it is like any other time a person finds unidentified coins, he can assume they came from the majority, which have no sanctity. Hayasham maneh umatzah matayim. If the father told the son a maneh, 100 zuz of Maaser Sheni coins is there in that place, and the son went and found 200 zuz there, Hashar chulin, 100 are Maaser Sheni and the rest are non-sacred. Here, where the numbers don't match because he found more than the father said he would find, we do not assume that the old coins were removed and these are completely different, non-sacred coins. Rather, we assume that the original Maaser Sheni coins are still there, except that someone added to them another 100 zuz of ordinary coins. Now, the Mishnah taught us in chapter 2, Mishnah 6, what should we do with the mixture of ordinary and Maaser Sheni coins? The Mishnah concludes, Matayim umatzah maneh. If the father told his son 200 zuz of Maaser Sheni coins are there in that place, and the son went and found there only one maneh, 100 zuz at kol Maaser, all the coins that he found are Maaser Sheni, because we assume that they are all the coins to which the father referred. And Mefarshim explain here too, we do not assume that because the numbers don't match, because he found less than what the father said he would find, all the old coins were removed and these are completely different non-sacred coins. Rather, we assume that someone removed only some of the original Maaser Sheni coins and these are what remain. The Mishnah therefore teaches that where the coins are not in the same place, we assume they are entirely different coins. Where the coins are in the same place but have the wrong amount, we assume that they are the original Maaser Sheni coins, but that some were added or removed. That is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.